The new update for Le Mans Ultimate is finally here, and it's packed full of amazing content like teams, driver swaps, custom liveries, a new track and 2 new cars. But there's also a new tire model for the GT3s, which made a way bigger difference than I thought. I'd argue that GT3s in LMU are now quite a bit more difficult to drive. I'll show you some examples of what I mean later. Still, there's a lot of stuff in this update and I'll try to check out all of it over the next few weeks. But for today, we'll just focus on the 2 new to LMU GT3 cars, the Lamborghini and the Lexus. While it would be tempting to try them on the new track, which by the way is Lusail in Qatar, I wouldn't be able to focus on the cars as I would have to learn the track, so let's do that later. If you want my insights of how to learn a new track, feel free to subscribe for that video coming soon. Oh, and in addition to the new GT3s we'll look at now, I also wanted to see what actually changed with the new tire model for the GT3s, so I went for a comparison with my trusty BMW M4 as well. But first, let's start with the new and exciting cars, starting with the Lexus RCF LMGT3. It has a few liveries available, though most of them look kind of similar, at least color scheme is the same with all of the available variants. But you're not here for the liveries. How does this car drive and what does it sound like? So let's start the engine and take a listen. I don't know about you, but there's just something about a V8 that really catches me, and it's done once again really well here in LMU. I mean, LMU is known for great car sounds, and to me this Lexus is no exception. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and also leave a like on the video if you enjoy this first look at the Le Mans Ultimate update. I've had a lot of fun already, even though we're gonna take a look later. There's also some things where I'm not quite sure about if I like it 100%, but that's more on the driving side. But that is something that we may now talk about for this car, the Lexus. So driving wise, you can already feel it's a typical front engine car. It has some understeer tendencies, probably even worse than some of the other front-engine cars that I've driven, but I've also noticed while checking out the BMW, which I'll show you later, that seemingly understeer has gotten a little bit worse, at least in my eyes, in this new update with the new tire model. So that might also be one of the reasons why that is. Might also be a setup thing, we'll have to figure that out over the coming days and weeks. But in general, the Lexus feels quite stable as a car. I was just driving the default setup, no changes, and I just went for it, which after trying the BMW and doing some changes there, I felt like that would probably be the safest bet. Still, even though it is quite stable, if you over push it, it can snap on you, and quite violently at that. Let me show you an example here. So we're coming up to No Name, and I will push a little bit too quickly into that corner and also take a bit of the curb, and the car just snaps on me. That might be something that could have already happened in the previous update in other cars as well, but still it kind of took me by surprise. And that was not the only instance of something like that happening. So same corner, once again kind of similar situation. I'm a little bit too fast and maybe also turning a little bit too much. And once again I try to save it, but there's just no saving it once the car goes. So overall the car feels quite stable and also kind of understeery in a lot of situations, but it can snap on you if you over push it, or if you go too aggressively into a corner or onto a curb. Then yeah, you can definitely have the rear step out on you quite quickly, and it's hard to catch. But that's, at least for me at the moment, after trying this update for a couple of hours now, something that seems generally a thing with a new tire model. So if the rear steps out on you, it's kind of difficult to catch it. More difficult to me than it was before the update. But overall I have to say I do like the Lexus. I like the sound, I like how it drives in general, and maybe it's just something I need to get used to a little bit more, so that I don't over push it and get into those situations where I do lose the car. I am however really excited to see this car on the grid in multiplayer races in the future, so that we get to enjoy more of this V8 goodness. And now let's shift focus to something quite different, both in the sound but also in the driving department. It's the Lamborghini Huracan LMGT3 Evo 2, one of the longest names of cars in the game. But it has at least some different liveries available, as you can see, so at least there's some variety here. But let's once again start the car and take a listen to this one. Oh, the scream of a V10, that's just something else than the low rumble of a V8, isn't it? I'm not quite sure if it's for me personally, but I think it's really well done in this game once again. Just the way that it sounds both on board and from the outside, I find really cool. And even with like all the downshift pops that are going on, especially if you hear them from the outside, I find that really cool. Once again, let me know what you think, and yeah, which of those two cars that are now new in the LMU GT3 roster is your favorite, just from a sound perspective. But we once again should shift our focus to the driving, because that is also quite different to what we just did drive with the Lexus, because Lamborghini is a mid-engine car. And you can really feel that. It's something that I have not driven all that much in at least LMU. I did drive the McLaren for a long time in ACC, so I kind of have some experience, but mid-engine cars always felt a little bit different here in LMU to me. So I did take a little bit longer to get acclimatized to this car than with the Lexus, which was kind of similar to the BMW I normally drive here. But I had a lot of fun in the Lamborghini. It is a car that is typical mid-engine, meaning it can rotate quite nicely, especially on corner entry. You really can get the rear to turn around without getting it into a real slide. And that might also be due to the tire model changes. Once again, we'll talk more on those in a little bit. But in general, the car felt quite nice to drive once again. Though I had a little bit of an understeer problem here once again. As I said, rotation on corner entry was quite nice, but mid-corner and corner exit felt really understeery, at least in the default setup. I wasn't brave enough, at least for the first couple of tries here, to change much on the setup, so once again, like with the Lexus, am just taking the default setup with default TC settings, so there might be some changes that you can make that are quite minor but could have a big effect on this car. Something to experiment with later for sure. But yeah, once again, with default setup, kind of understeery, and I actually did have a lot of problems going up Eau Rouge. Taking that flat was near impossible for me, even if I thought I had a good line. I mean, I'm not the greatest driver, but still I normally can take Eau Rouge flat in the cars that I drive, but it was kind of difficult in this one. But other than that, and yeah, some other faster corners where I definitely could feel the understeer, the car felt nice to drive, even though there was some rotation, as I said, on corner entry. It never was to the point where I felt not in control. Of course, once again, if you over push the car, you can of course lose it, and quite quickly at that. Let me show you an example. So we're approaching the end of the Camel Straight, and I might be a little bit late on brakes here, maybe also have them, well, at too much power for a little bit too long, and I just lose the car on entry. That's something that didn't happen all that often, but it can happen. So yeah, you need to be careful for sure. And once again, it might happen to you as well in other cars that you might be quite used to and where you didn't have that problem before because of the new tire model. Here is another example of me pushing a little bit too hard and too fast into this right-hander, and yeah, I lose it. That, once again, that might be something that could have happened before, but there are some situations that are definitely new, and we'll take a look in a little bit. But just finishing up my thoughts on the Lamborghini, it's a fun car to drive, and if you're a fan of the sound and just the aesthetics of the Lamborghini, I think you'll have a good time if you like the feel of mid-engine cars as well. It's, for me, kind of slotting in between the McLaren and the Ferrari in terms of difficulty, at least speaking from the old patches perspective. I haven't tried the McLaren or the Ferrari in the new update yet. That is something that I might do in the future. If you want to see anything in particular or just my thoughts on every GT3 now with the new tire model, let me know down in the comments. I might as well get to that at some point and just let you know what I think are good cars for beginners, for example. And as I said, even though I wasn't particularly fast in the Lamborghini and I had some moments where I didn't really feel that in control, overall the car felt still really good to drive. It's something that I probably just need to get used to because I'm just more used to driving front engine cars in LMU at the moment. But let's now shift our focus to the new GT3 tire model that I've talked about quite a bit already, because it will affect every GT3 in the game, and even the one that you might be very used to and you think you know and can drive quite well. But I've noticed when taking out the BMW M4 GT3 that things have changed for sure. I did drive this combination of the BMW on Spa yesterday before the patch to just be very familiar with it so that I could notice the difference to the new model, hopefully quite quickly. And I definitely did. Coming off of my second lap here, which was kind of similar pace to my normal pace before the patch, I noticed quickly here that I did get quite a bit more understeer than I was used to and got onto the gravel and then lost the car. And I thought, okay, that felt a little bit weird, but maybe it was just a normal thing and, well, I was just not driving it very well, and, well, the gravel just made the car very unstable and I lost it. But then, a little bit later, this happened. We are coming into Pouhon and I pushed in maybe a little bit too fast, but how quickly I lost the car here was kind of surprising. I definitely didn't have that happen before in the BMW in this corner. But probably the weirdest incident is what you're gonna see now. At this point I was experimenting a little bit with lower TC values that I was used to from before the patch, which already felt kind of sketchy, but I really didn't expect what happened here. Take a look at this. I just completely lose the car by somehow clipping the curb a little bit up Eau Rouge. Even looking at the replay here, I don't really know what happened, and I feel like I've not seen this before. Not at this place and not in this car. So something must have changed. Well, and it did. The new GT3 tire model definitely brought some changes to the game that maybe makes it more realistic, because before the patch you could drive quite ridiculous slip angles at times, and maybe that wasn't all too realistic. But at least to me, now the GT3s feel more difficult to drive and more punishing if you make mistakes. Having a little bit too much steering angle or going over a curb the wrong way can really unsettle the car, and it is more difficult to catch the rear stepping out on you. I think it will take time to really figure out if this change to the tire model is an overall good or bad thing. Right now I can just say it's different and it feels more difficult. But it's still early days, so it is something that I will continually monitor while getting used to the new tire model and doing more races in cars that I am familiar with. So expect more exciting LMU content in the future on this channel. Both online races and also a look at the newly added Lusail circuit in Qatar, which I will have to learn, and I want to take you along for that. So stay tuned for a little bit of a guide on how to learn a new track in a racing sim. Subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss it, and click the like button if you enjoyed this first look at the new GT3s and the new GT3 tire model. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and with that I just want to thank you a lot for watching. I've been HD Racing, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.